first tonight, a woman accused of stabbing her nephew to death takes the stand to tell her side of the story. Today in court, attorneys painted a picture of alleged abuse and described what led to that fateful day in 2016. Our Eyewitness News reporter Aaron Wright is live downtown at the Justice Center with more on today's proceedings. Aaron.
Jeff, that's right. Today we got to hear a timeline of text message and calls between Mohammed Abdelazziz and Andira Abdelazziz. But outside the courtroom, we got to hear from his family, who say he is not the monster that he's being characterized as in court. Andira Abdelazziz took to the stand to tell jurors what happened between her and her former lover, her nephew, Mohammed Abdelazziz. Jurors were read days' worth of text messages between the two. The defense asked Andira her thoughts on the texts, many of them containing obscenities and abusive language aimed at her. She told the court she did her best to calm down her angry nephew and promised to keep their relationship a secret.
I was scared to death.
Abdelaziz recalls the day in August of 2016 when deputies were called to her home and put Mohammed in handcuffs for what was initially a burglary call. After law enforcement left, Abdelaziz says Mohammed was enraged.
Your God can't save you from me.
She told the court today it was fear that made her act.
I was begging him not to hurt me while I was walking towards him with the knife in my hand. My son Mohammed came running in, and I was already a foot away from big Mohammed with the knife in my hand. And then my son Mohammed came running in, and he turned around to face my son Mohammed, and I snapped him.
Authorities say Mohammed tried to get away only to wind up driving into the front of Abdelaziz's home before dying. Again, outside the courtroom today, I got to speak with Mohammed Abdelaziz's family. They say he was a law student, and that's how they want him to be remembered, and they're simply asking for justice in this case. Abdelaziz, Andira Abdelaziz, is facing a murder charge in her nephew's death. Reporting in downtown San Antonio, Aaron Wright, KENS 5 Eyewitness News.